You are listening to the Cattle Call Podcast. This is the place where computer-aided design and drafting meets humor and practicality, with a touch of business acumen thrown in for fun. Jim and Rocco, the owners of Zentech Consultants, the premier U.S. technology consulting firm for architecture, engineering, construction, and manufacturing, discuss the fascinating world of CAD with some humor and some honesty. The Cattle Call Podcast. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Cattle Call Podcast with Jim and Rocco from Zentech Consultants. I am Jim, your guy with a cold trying not to cough in your ear host today, and with me, as always, is...
It's Rocco, and good morning, Jim. Thanks for coming back to work today. You know, I called your line a couple times yesterday, and every time somebody picked up, it almost sounded like they had the Godfather on the line.
I'm saying, is that making an offer you can't refuse?
I heard rumblings, like something about concrete and horses' heads. I mean...
I'm telling you, you see where his mind goes all the way? His name is Rocco. He's always thinking about the Godfather. He's got delusions of grandeur over there. So, all right, luckily, unlike the mini Godfather that I'm stuck with every day, we have a great guest in the studio today. We have Mr. Todd Rogers of Walter P. Moore is back on the podcast. So, Todd, thanks for being here, man.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me again.
Always love having you on. So, Todd, for those of you who don't remember, is a BIM manager at Walter P. Moore, and he also sits on the board of directors for Augie, and he is the editor-in-chief nowadays for Augie World Magazine, which is awesome. And Todd is a recurring guest here on the show, right? And we like having him on for his honest and very direct opinions. So we figured he'd be a good guy to talk to about today's topic, right? You know, how do real companies implement new and or updated software, right? So, yeah, thanks for being back here and walking into the crazy again, Todd.
My pleasure.
So let's get started. Why don't you kind of refresh our listeners' memory about your background and what you do over at Walter P. Moore on a daily basis?
Sure. So I spent 16 years in production back in the day and transitioned over to a reseller for about almost 10 years, which I really loved. As we all know, the reseller business is kind of dwindling and going away. So I jumped out at the right time, and I've been at Walter P. Moore for 4 years this March. So
congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. I'm in charge for BIM for infrastructure, which is fairly new in the industry. It's been very challenging. Everybody's learning a lot. I'm learning a lot, but it seems to be going pretty smoothly these days, which is a good thing because I have to talk to Revit somehow, and talking to Revit is just not fun.
No, it never is. It's never an easy thing when you got to talk to any kind of high-end proprietary system. It's never fun.
Indeed.
So, all right. So, when it comes to rolling out new or updated software, right, whether it is a CAD system, a project management software, a BIM implementation, just about anything else, we all tend to get stress headaches just thinking about it. We have to consider everything from, which software do we use to, how it gets installed and when and what add-ons do we need and what tools and workflows are we going to go through and how do we train people on using all of that. Right? So minor things, nothing big, right? Just simple things. Look, as consultants, Rocco and I have one approach for this, right? But I wanted to get Todd in today to talk about the practical process for handling these issues in a large-scale environment like Walter P. Moore. So Todd, let's kind of start from the beginning and look at planning for a software upgrade, right? How do you guys go through the process of selecting and vetting a software system before you go to it?
Yeah. So what we do is we install every other year. So we upgrade every other year, which this year we did an upgrade. So we're stuck on even years now, which it seems that Autodesk in their odd number years have a very bad reputation.
They always have. They always have.
Starting with release 13. What we do is, the software is usually released around April. I'm on the beta team, of course, so, I'm testing it before it comes out. When it comes out, then I start using it in production environment. I don't do very much production, but I get into some of these jobs and I fiddle around and play with the new features and what have you. And we usually upgrade everyone around September-ish.
Mhm.
So, end of August, 1st of September is when we get everybody rolling.
Yeah, so kind of staying almost a year behind at least, even on the alternate year upgrade.
That is correct, and
Yeah,
that also gives us time for some of the bugs to get ironed out. Wait a
yeah.
minute, software has bugs?
Oh no, what are the chances? I tell you, and it's a smart way, right? I used to call people. Like I said, you're doing a reseller thing. I used to tell people it's one thing to be on the leading edge of technology. You don't want to be on the bleeding edge of
Yeah,
technology. That is not the place you want to be. So give it that extra year is a good answer.
for sure.
So yeah, I mean, this part of the process, right? To my consultant's brain, it's the most crucial step of the upgrade or the rollout process, right? I can't tell you how many times, right, we get involved with a client who's tied themselves to a system, based on like the price as the main determinant, right, as to when they're going to, put it in and what they're going to do, and that's always a disaster. And listen, the other thing is it's also not an uncommon thing for software decisions to be made by, the IT admin and the CTO level folks, right, based on input from their vendors instead of listening to their own in-house users. And I think there's a dangerous belief out there that because someone is an amazing IT technical person, that they naturally understand all the systems. And we need to remember that the design and build process, right, that we are all in, it uses software. They aren't driven and designed by the software. Right? A brilliant programmer or a brilliant CTO doesn't always have the first clue on how to dig a footing or what it is you're trying to accomplish at the end of the day, right? So Todd, how do you guys ensure you get input from your best end users when you're vetting a new system or a new update?
Yeah, so that's so true. What everything you just said. I've worked with companies where IT has control of everything, and 9 times out of 10, it's a complete nightmare. Fortunately, where I'm at, they because of my background, they lay it all on me, which is super nice. They come to me about things. They come with me with issues, which I have, which is not much because I usually get that from the users themselves.
Hmm.
Now, we have a couple of systems in place that I've implemented. One is channels and teams where people can post issues or wants, kind of a wish list place and a ranting place.
That's a really nice set. I like that idea. You know what? I may steal that. I like that a
Yeah,
lot. Putting in a team channel just for, problems and wish list items and things on a new software. That's absolutely brilliant. I like
yeah,
that.
it works fabulous. And we even broke it down, so we have a main and then the subs under it, we have things like Project Explorer, Near Map, things of that nature. So they can post specifically in those teams, and notify us. Another system we have is through Spiceworks, which is a free system, which is a CAD support ticket system. So we basically have a SharePoint where they go in and they click a CAD help button and it takes them to Spiceworks and they fill out the office that they're in, the software that they're using, the problem that they have. It emails the people that I have set up in there. Anyone that receives that email can go in and accept it and go ahead and try to fix them. And it also has a resolve button. So that helps a lot as well.
Nice. That's a good setup. I like that a lot. Yeah, I'm definitely going to steal that idea. So,
Yeah, it's good.
so Rocco, let's ask you, right? So do you find that our clients tend to put more weight behind senior tech people's opinion and kind of ignore the day to day users, or is that just my limited perception because I work so much with the day to day users?
No, I think it's almost like a standard default, right? I mean, you defer to the people that have been around a long time, the people that are kind of leading the charge. So definitely see that all the time.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So it's not just my crazy imagination. That's good.
No, I mean you're crazy, but yeah,
That's fair. That's fair. You're not wrong. But at least in this case, I'm crazy with a purpose. So,
yeah.
all right. So, the next kind of big step, folks, that you kind of have to address in a rollout of any kind is your planning phase, right? You can't just pick a system and stick it on everybody's computer. Listen, the evidence of many clients we've worked with over the years says that you actually can, but it's a really bad idea. Developing a rollout plan, right, with tasks assigned to specific people and testing processes and staff training, all of that is vital to succeeding here. And I think if you ignore these, you will, I promise you, wind up with a lot of very angry users and lose a ton of billable time because of all kinds of unforeseen, workflow issues and that are going to come up with these new processes because people haven't had a chance to learn or develop, ways to work with it. So Todd, what's your planning process, I guess, for a rollout? Right? I mean, do you guys use a formal written type of thing, or you just kind of ad hocking it between a few trusted people?
I'm so glad we picked this subject for today, because, I've seen it done 1,000 different ways. And this year was kind of challenging for us for the simple fact that Walter P. Moore has been using the same setup for years and years and years and years. Mm-hmm. So one thing is we had our little thing set up in the ribbon and da-da-da-da. Well, we transitioned from the ribbon to the tool palette this year, which was pretty challenging. So I have a guy that's, he's not a hard programmer, a very strong programmer, but he knows programming a little bit. Mm-hmm. And so he was tasked with moving this stuff over and setting up the bootable Lisp to load variables and things of that nature. So it was pretty extensive this year. And we did it, we would, set a goal. So we needed something done for the next month. That goal would be succeeded. And it actually worked out, and we rolled it out exactly when we wanted to this year. It was absolutely beautiful. Everyone's happy, and it was a good thing.
Yeah, so you just broke it down, like I said, into benchmark points, right? Just like you would do a construction project, right? You said this has got to be done by that date.
Yeah, and it's important to have a meeting each month about what you need for the next month, right? So, there's several meetings, in between those times to get all this ironed out to reach that goal. Once that goal's reached, that's a check mark. That's a day closer to, being able to roll it out.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Setting tiny steps, right? Little goals in between to get you, making sure you're moving. Exactly. I've always found over the years, right, one of the biggest stumbling blocks in that entire concept is, people meet and they want to plan for the entire rollout and how are we going to do this long-term plan instead of setting small, achievable steps.
Doesn't work.
Yeah.
It's never worked for us. We've tried it. It just don't work, man. There's always something that you've left out or something that wasn't done or forgot about something,
Yeah, absolutely. I agree 100%, right? In general, I'm just a firm believer. I'm even outside of my consulting stuff, and I did this for years, like Walter does, or Walter Moore is doing over in the, the public space and the infrastructure side, right? That Todd's working with, and it doesn't work in those long setups where you just say, okay, we're going to throw it all out and roll it all out, and it's going to take 2 years, and we'll have this beautiful, perfect system. It never happens, and I'm a firm believer in planning and testing smaller steps before you roll this out to your people for public use. Right? I know that those are a lot of times they're dull, simple things that people want to just skip past. But I've just found that people who don't take the time to do those small intermediate steps and really test them usually regret it. Okay, it will come back to bite you in the butt, folks. So with that said, let's take a quick break to hear from today's sponsor. And when we come back, I want to actually talk to Todd about his actual implementation process. Right. So stand by, folks. We're going to be back in just a minute with more of the Cattle Call Podcast. All right, everybody. Today's episode of the Cattle Call Podcast is brought to you by Zen-Tech Consultants. That's Rocco and I. We're bringing ourselves to you. Aren't we nice? So we wanted to talk to you guys today about some of the things that we offer at Zen-Tech Consultants. In particular, we wanted to talk to you today about
our offerings around developing and upgrading your CAD standards. We are here to help you guys with all of your CAD standard needs, from ongoing drafting and design support to block and library development, full CAD standards development, right? CAD version upgrades, really whatever it is that you guys need when it comes to developing, implementing, and tweaking your current CAD standards. Or like I said, if you don't have any yet, we can help you build them from scratch. So Rocco, why don't you tell all the good folks how they can reach out to us and start that conversation?
Yeah, there's a lot of information, people, on our website, zentechconsultants.net. That's ZENTEK consultants.net. Or you can give us a call, 866-824-4459, or even drop us an email, sales@zentechconsultants.net.
Ooh, nice. CAD standards from Zentech Consultants. You're listening to the Cattle Call Podcast.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Cattle Call Podcast, where we're talking about practical implementation of new software in a busy work environment, right, with Todd Rogers from Walter P. Moore. And in this half of the show, I want to talk about the hands-on process, right? You know, how do you perform the implementation kind of post-planning, so to speak? So Todd, what's your first step in getting that new system actually put into place? How do you handle getting it onto people's workstations and making sure that it's working properly?
Yeah, that's a really good question. To be honest, we're still trying to find a better way to do it. We use Panzura. So Panzura is it's pretty popular in the infrastructure world as far as cloud servers.
Mm-hmm.
So each office has its own controller, which makes things process quicker. We do have offices in other countries, which makes it worse because I have to duplicate the installation stuff. But as it is right now, I basically go through and set everything up and then provide a link for them to click on. So the new deployment system is kind of right now, and I had a lot of problems with it this year. Supposedly it's fixed. I don't know. They fixed it, of course, after I did everything. But usually a deployment, and then it's basically I have to trust people to get it installed. Now, this year was pretty good because I kind of put a little fear into them about how things will, mess up their projects if they don't upgrade. So
There you go. Little fear goes a long way.
yeah, kind of little push there, and it worked fairly well. Now, one thing that we do that made it a lot easier is we use VDIs. So for the ones using the VDIs, I got with IT. They installed the software. I configured it, then installed all the extra stuff and configured it. And then whenever he refreshes a VDI for a user, whenever they log in, it's just ready to go.
Right.
It's
Makes
super
it much easier. Yeah, and I've done that in the past too with the rollouts. You can get it like the Ghost, that reloads on boot and everything. So I mean, when you're doing the rollouts, do you do it all in one day? Do you have like a set day where you tell everybody you've got to install today, or do you do it in groups, or how do you address that?
Yeah, so we do give them a deadline, and of course that deadline this year was pretty interesting because it seemed like an update came out every single couple of weeks. We had AutoCAD updates, the Civil 3D updates because it runs on top of AutoCAD. We had the map updates, which runs on AutoCAD and Civil 3D. And then we had all the Project Explorer updates, the grading optimization tool updates. It was just insane. And everybody's like, why do I have to install all these updates? I'm like, look, if you don't, it's going to cause problems in your project.
There you go. It won't work. Just do it.
That's right.
It does the job. It does the job. So look, I think folks, that a key here when you're doing this, right, is to make sure that the new system that you're putting in place doesn't break the old one.
Yeah.
And really the key, because until you have a chance to get into training, right, which is a big component we're going to talk about in a bit, training your staff on this new system, you need to be certain that what you're putting in place isn't going to disrupt their billable workflow, or at the very least, like Todd said, you can threaten them with it's going to disrupt your billable workflow, and then they'll listen to you. And that can mean two kind of different thought processes depending on if you're doing an an update or an upgrade, right? Versus a new software or a new version install. If you're updating the current system, right, new features and changes, they're going to affect your users immediately, right? If you're updating AutoCAD, it's going to instantly hit them, right? When you're doing more of a side by side, right, you're installing the old version and a new version together, or you're doing a completely new software install, you do get a little bit more flexibility. And I think in terms of lead and change over time, you can put the software on and give yourself some time to train and get people up to speed and address issues. Todd, do you guys have different processes for upgrades versus new installations? And how do you guys address either or?
Yeah, so really the only thing that I handle is the design software. Um, all the other upgrades per se, like Bluebeam and things of that nature, is done through IT. Now, I do know that they only push those upgrades out, to certain people, right, power users,
Mm-hmm.
which kind of what we did as well this year. We pushed out an early release of the upgrade uh, to power users, that because they're working in a production environment. They're using it like it's supposed to be used, and that's where we ironed out a lot of the issues.
Right.
Um, so as far as upgrading, it is almost imperative to keep the current version that you had on there, as well as putting the new version on there to get transitioned over, just in case problems arise. And that keeps them working, right? That's the key, keep them working. So if you have the other software on there, now the other thing about that is you got to make sure that they are backward compatible, right? So
There you go. That's the most important part.
that's the most important part. So of course 2020 and then 2022 is compatible, which is great. Uh, but I'm sure that a new drawing format will arise next year.
Yep. That's the
So
plan from what I've heard. But that
yep.
is, that
So
is vitally important, right? Especially, I love the idea and agree with you with the idea of putting the software first, right, into the hands of your power users, because they're the guys who are going to break it. They're going to
yeah,
find the problems. They're going to find the issues. But you do have to, like Todd said, right? You got to be real careful about the fact that if they're using a new version, if it's not a backwards compatible version, your power users' work can't be accessed by any of your standard users, and that can cause additional headaches. So you got to think that through and be, plan for that.
yes.
Okay,
So yeah,
so
when we upgrade, would it be 2024 again? That's going to be kind of a nightmare, I'm sure.
yeah, by that point we'll definitely have a new DWG format and new issues going with that. So
Yeah, then we'll have a new podcast.
there you go. I have another one to talk about, and I'll have to use the bleep button a lot to keep this. This is a family show, Todd. Come on. So, all right, Rocco. How much thought do you see that our clients put into upgrades versus new installations? Right? Do you see them being real careful, or just pushing out the updates? Like, oh, it's time to update. Just push it out like it's nothing to worry about.
No, I don't really hear of anybody that's like right at the top, right at the bleeding edge of things. But we do deal with folks that are all over the map, right? I mean, a lot of people, I think, particularly the Civil 3D folks, have adopted, what Walter P. Moore is doing, which is every 2 years. But then there's people that just wait way too long to
Yeah, you got
to
the opposite problem.
update, and then it's like, now everybody goes into a panic, because there's so many changes that are going on. So, I think as a general rule of thumb, I mean, everybody needs to get, regardless of whether you're working with just Revit or Civil 3D or AutoCAD or the whole mix. I think you got to do it at least every 2 years, or you're really gonna be in a tough spot. As time goes on, there's just so many new features, and compatibility becomes a big issue, and just getting your people trained becomes an issue, and it's yeah.
No, that's really, I actually hadn't even thought about that for today's presentation, but you're absolutely right, Rocco. I mean, we have just seen this, particularly over the last 6 months for some reason. I've been working with people who are still working, believe it or not, on Land Development Desktop 2009. I've got like 3 or 4 clients who are on like Civil 3D 2008 and 2010. people who are so far back. And then when you're taking their end users, right, their production people, and you're like, okay, here's the 2022 release, and they're lost. They're just looking at the screen like, what am I supposed to do with this? I don't even know where to begin.
Or
You
they
know?
think that they think that they'll be fine, and then they'll get into it, and then the panic sets in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because the process is, and I know it's, people are like, oh, CAD is CAD. No, it's not. I know that we all say, there are no major upgrades and there haven't been enough. And believe me, that's absolutely true. Everybody who listens to the show knows I feel that way. But at the end of the day, right, every incremental change, it adds up. The interface, the basic underlying concepts and thoughts, right? The idea of moving from, an external database to all your stuff inside of a drawing, it throws people. They don't know how to even conceive of what you're doing. So you're taking, with that big of a pause, you're taking your power users, like Todd was saying, and you're turning them into beginners again. It's a terrible idea. And it's not because we're consultants, folks, and we want you to work with us. Todd's got the right setup. Every 2 years, you got to upgrade your software. You just have to. You have to put in that time and investment. So,
Something that really is irking me lately is, Autodesk will push out an update, a halfway or three-quarters way through the year. Well, that upgrade, a dot two point whatever or something, will have a new feature in it, right? And so I push out the update to everybody. Somebody uses that new feature that's in there. Well, somebody doesn't upgrade to the update.
mm-hmm.
What happens there? It causes issues. That's what happens.
Yeah, that's exactly what happens.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
because they this new feature in this update, but they're using the same year, but they don't have the update. So oh man, I totally disagree with Autodesk doing that. It's just
Well,
not.
it's how they justify their annual subscription fees. We're giving you a whole thing, and you're getting 2 upgrades essentially a year. It's like, yeah, I think I'd prefer just one big upgrade and pay. Yeah, we've had that conversation before. So, all right. So listen, folks. I think the biggest component of all of this really has to be training. And I know you guys listen to me, right? I always preach that you need to train staff before you ever let them touch a new system, and then you need to give them a month to break it. And then you go back and train them some more. Honestly, training is always the most overlooked aspect of software rollout. I have had so many conversations with, senior management where they say things like, my guys are smart, they'll figure it out. Or even worse, this one I hear a lot. Oh, this is their job. They better know how to do this. It's a complete recipe for disaster. It's not a reasonable approach to assume that since someone was reliable in CAD system A or version A, that they can use CAD system B with no problems. It's not even reasonable, like Todd was saying, it's not even reasonable to assume that they can use CAD system A.1.2. It's just not the way it works, right? New tools, new processes, new workflows mean that they need training, even on simple upgrades. I once had a manager from one of our clients push back at me when I made that argument. Right? He told me, look, I don't need to relearn how to drive every time I get a new car, right? To which I just asked the guy, I said, oh, and do you know how to drive a stick shift? And he was like 25 years old. I knew he didn't. And not being an old man like me, he just had no answer, right? And that's all I'm saying, is that different tools and processes require new skills and time to learn them, right? For your people to be productive, right? So Todd, how does Walter Moore approach training for these rollouts that you do? Do you guys do formal classes? Do you do mentoring? Is it addressed on more of an as-needed basis, or are you running some kind of combo of those?
Yeah, so that's a good question. That's a good. I like the guy says I don't need to relearn how to drive every time I get a new car. Well, I just purchased the wife a new car for Christmas, and this is while she was in Mexico, right? I wanted to surprise her when she got back. So me and my son went and got this new car. I am all over the road coming back home trying to figure out all the buttons in this damn thing, right? So that's not a true statement, young man. You don't need to relearn.
That's fair. That's fair.
So to answer your question on that, the rollout, the training is done with video snippets, right? So we're in a work from home environment. So um, it's easy, used to we would just have a lunch and learn or a class or such and so forth. And we still do that from time to time. We'll do a lunch and learn because it's charged to office or personal, right?
Hmm.
So there's that. So most of it is done with video snippets, right? I just put together video snippets and I blast it to each user, right? So I even, it's cool that you can go on Teams, right, and get the email address to that team and email it to that team, which is super nice.
Yeah.
'Cause you can have all your instructions in your email that comes and shows up on Teams with a link to the video.
Mm.
Now, I'm still working endlessly on trying to get Eagle Point in the office, which would tell me who's watched the video, right? So that's the only issue I'm having right now with training people on this type of thing is
Yeah.
I don't know who's watched the videos. I don't know who's learned anything from the videos, right? Because there's really no way to, there is, but I mean, how do you keep up with it? To give a little test at the end.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how we're doing it right now, and again, I'm really wanting Eagle Point to implement that into that process just to have the interface to see what's been done, who's done it, and what was their skill level set when it was done.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny. We actually, Rocco and I, we worked with Eagle Point for a lot of years. We know all the guys over at Eagle Point, the owners and the lead developers and everybody. And it's a great setup. I love that. I love their software, and I tried to work with them for years, getting custom stuff put in, and they're absolutely fantastic. But I will throw out just as a kind of a free plug, right? Just someone that we work with for you, Todd. It is a fee-based setup, but we work because we do a lot of recorded training for our clients, and we do recorded trainings for all our classes and so on. I know you've done a few of those. We use Learn Worlds, and one of the things that we love about Learn Worlds is that you can set it up, and you can do it as like a corporate based environment for just your users, and it tells you literally how many minutes of each video people have watched. It's like, oh, this person watched the video, yeah, they watched 16 minutes and 32 seconds of your hour long video. You can see everyone and who signed up for it and who watched it on what date and what time. So that might be something for you to look at.
It's called Learning Worlds.
Learn Worlds, Learn Worlds. Yep, we use that for all of our recording for all of our classes. So free plug for them today. They ain't paying me anything, but I like the product, so I'll give them a plug. So
Well, I'll be going to learnworlds.com after this.
there you go. So yeah, it's a real nice system. And it does have like all of the other stuff. You can provide support files, example files, and tie them all in as part of the recording. So if you want to give people like your example video or your example drawing files and stuff that you worked with in the video, you can do that too. It's a real nice little system.
That's all.
All right, so the last thing I guess that I always recommend for all of our clients at Zentech is some type of ongoing support for a new system, right? And I can't stress it. I don't mean through your software reseller. Resellers and software developers will help you if the program doesn't work, and that's usually the only support that is included in your purchase price. People are always confused by, oh, my reseller will help me. No, they won't. They will help you if the software breaks. Okay, if you have a workflow issue or you just don't really understand an overall process, you don't know how to build a roadway, or they'll just refer you to the help file, right, for a video that they have recorded out on YouTube and say, there you go, there's a video, go figure it out. And videos are great, but when you don't understand a process, you need a person to talk to and help you through it. I really do. I think everybody's staff needs more than that, right? And I'm not saying that everybody listening should contract with Zentech, right, for ongoing support. Though you you should. Listen, but I think you do need a process in place, a formal process to help people, right? A week, a month, even a year out from your rollout. And that can be your in-house specialist. You can work with consultants like Zentech. You can have your software guru guy in the office, right? Or even just, regular retraining, right? But the issue needs to be addressed and planned for, right? Before you go out putting that software, even on a single system. People got to have a route to get help when they need it to be productive. So, Todd, how do you guys plan for and handle long-term support for, new software rollouts? And are there any specific processes that you do or don't like for that kind of support?
Yeah, so things have changed a lot over the years. I still have my support ID through Autodesk, which I haven't used in a very long time. But you know, the way we do it, fortunately, I'm there to help these people get past a lot of issues and things of that nature. Um, as far as things that, I also work for Directly, which directly receives all Autodesk cases. And, we can reroute to Autodesk if we don't know the answer or if it's a bug or something like that we can't fix.
Hmm.
So it's a pretty good system right there. So I get to see a lot of this firsthand. I get to see all these cases, and when you start seeing the same thing from different people, then it's a real issue, right? And, you just keep, contacting your buddies within Autodesk. You contact your buddies in the industry and just talk out these things and see if they have a workaround, which usually if there's a lot of cases about the same thing coming in, there's no workaround yet.
Yeah.
But that's how I go about doing it, and it's worked pretty doggone good so far.
Yeah.
That could change.
No, it's a great system. And here's what I will say. I agree with you. And I think that works real well for you and I. We've been in this industry, you and I, forever, right? We've been here for 30 years plus. Both of us been working in the same venues. We have a mass number of people that we know that we can reach out to. But I will say that most folks out there don't. You don't. That's why I said, the formal planning, whether it's, one of the things we do here at Zentech, right? We call them our tech blocks. They're kind of prepaid support hours. So you pay me for like a 10 or a 20-hour block of time in advance, and then all your users just call me, right? They call Zentech and say, Jim, got a problem, not figuring this out. We've got 3 guys having this issue. And I have, just like Todd was saying, I do have that massive network of people and contacts, and I can go to the support lines and I know the people to ask, and I can get answers even if I don't know them right offhand. So that is how we kind of work with our clients on that. But I think it's great. Like
you kind of feel bad for other people because they don't have that channel to go to, and and I still get people call me and say, hey, can you help me with this? Or they'll reach out to me on LinkedIn. Hey, how you been? What's been going on with you? Oh, by the way, can you help me?
I get that all the time. Yeah, the good thing is, like you said, owning and running a business as a consultant, it's really a great thing because I'm usually like, yep, happy to help you. And by the way, if you need ongoing help, and you're surprised how many people then just go, hey, you know what? I worked with this guy for years. This guy knows his stuff. Let's just get him on board to, so everybody can just call him and not give me a headache.
Oh, yeah, that's a big plus for you guys.
Yeah, no doubt. So look, folks, at the end of the day, I think what we're trying to say here is that your implementations and rollouts, it just can't be a full ad hoc process, right? You need to have a plan. Right? And the great thing, and I think Todd mentioned this in the first half of the show, is that, the plan, once you develop it, right, it's just an overall outline of here's the process that can be applied to just about any system or department in your company with a few minor tweaks, right? A formal, written rollout plan can be used as a template for installing HR software or the new CAD version or Procore or, your accounting system even. You just need to be, address the specific tools, right? But the overall process is repeatable and easy to follow once you kind of lay it out for this is how we do it. So Todd, what else do you look at or address in a rollout that, I, being a knucklehead, forget to mention today? Drop some pearls of Todd-like wisdom onto our listeners.
One thing is make sure you are testing everything before you even mention, right? Because if you start mentioning a new feature or a new version that's about to be rolled out in the company, people are going to be like trying to install it themselves. They'll go to the website and try to install it, and then they'll jack everything up, and then when rollout comes up, the install doesn't work because they've got all this stuff jacked up. So, my words of wisdom to you is just be patient. Don't mention anything and test it thoroughly before you roll it out.
There you go. Keep it all close to the vest. All righty, folks. I think we can leave it there today. And again, I really want to thank you, Todd, for being back on the show. It is always a pleasure having you on, sir.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Todd.
Thank you. And we need authors, guys. Augie World needs more authors. So
there you go. I promised Todd that I'm going to get him some civil content, and anybody who's listening, reach out to Augie World. They need writers and experts from all aspects. So reach out to Todd. He is the man.
Todd.Rogers, Rogers @augie.com.
There you go. That's the way to do it. All righty, folks. I think we're going to take off, and we will catch you next time on the Cattle Call Podcast.
All right, everybody. Today's Cattle Call was brought to you courtesy of Zentech Consultants. That's Rocco and I. Zentech Consultants works with design and manufacturing firms to help our clients purchase and implement the software that they need in these complex industries. We provide a single point of contact for clients to buy, develop, and learn the most vital software systems for your specific needs. Zentech strives to be your trusted technology partner from your initial needs all the way through long-term support and training for your entire staff. So Rocco, why don't you tell them how to reach out to Zentech?
All right, yeah, you can reach out to us through zentechconsultants.net. You can email us at sales@zentechconsultants.net, or you can even call us 866-824-4459.
Excellent. We look forward to hearing from y'all.